We always hear the advice, live within your means. But to make significant improvements in your financial situation, it may be better to live below your means. I'm Edric Mendoza, and this is On the Money. With us in this episode is registered financial planner Rolly Robles. Hello, Rolly.
Hi.
We have a very exciting topic today, personally one of my favorite, living below your means. I hear you have great stories to tell of those that have applied it and those that haven't. So why don't you tell us the consequences of those that did not live below their means?
For example, there's this young adult that I came across, and he was just thinking of being able to finance the gigs that he'd like to get into, the weekends and all that, buying the gadgets that he would like to buy. What he did was to use his credit card to finance those expenses. Initially, it wasn't that big, but since he was not paying the entire principal each time, he was just paying the minimum required, which he thought was fine. Eventually, as you would already know, this debt ballooned.
Wow.
Okay. Now, guess what he did in order to pay the debt?
What did he do? I'm bracing myself. Okay.
He used another card.
Used another card.
Did a cash advance on it.
Right.
Pay that one.
Oh my.
And so now he has two.
Two.
And eventually, he ended up with four.
Four
cards.
Credit cards paying off each other.
And about between 300,000 to 400,000 in debt.
Wow.
Can you now imagine a 25-year-old paying off that much debt? You know, that's going to be tough.
And it started with, you were saying,
those small little expenses that he thought he would be able to afford to pay. Right. It will help if you live by the principle, if you can't afford to pay for it in cash, you can't afford it. So just pay for it in cash.
Okay, that's very good. Tell me about the upside, positive stories.
Okay.
I mean, tell me about stories of people who realize, you know what, I should live below my means and great things happen.
I know a guy many years ago when this guy was offered credit cards, and not just one. He was offered by 4 or 5 cards.
Uh-oh.
Okay, and he started using the cards. Okay, and it was fun because he was just signing all those slips, and he would be able to eat out, buy stuff for himself, for his family, and all that. It was fun. Then one day he gets this bill that he has to pay.
Oh no.
Oh, but then
the day of reckoning.
Yeah, but then and he couldn't understand why he couldn't get out of it, because he was paying until he realized that what he was paying wasn't the principal. It was just a small installment that barely pays for the interest. And so he made that decision that he's going to pay off all of these things. Right? Took him about 18 months to get out of it. But finally he did.
At least he did. Yeah.
But imagine those 18 months and the adjustments in his lifestyle that he had to make in order to afford paying off everything in 18 months. And that was a big, tough call as well for this guy, because he had to forego a lot of the usual luxuries. He just has to be able to pay for everything that he needs, the rent, the utilities, the food. That's about it. But finally he was able to repay it. Okay?
18 months.
And the beauty of it is this. He realized that the amount he was using to pay for the debt at that point was something that he no longer needs to finance his actual lifestyle, because he's gotten used to that.
Correct. He's been able to live below
his means. And at that point, he had what is now known as savings, right?
What he should have known, right, earlier,
And the savings, he realized he can now use to pay for a lot.
So sometimes people learn the hard way, right? Like in this case. What would you say is key to living below your means?
First is understanding what is important to spend for.
Understand what is important to spend for.
The other thing is, there's this monster in each one of us. That monster I call the I want to have it now monster. Once you tame that monster, you're on your way. I'll give you an example.
Good,
by the way, that guy that I was talking about,
second guy or the first?
The second guy.
The second guy, the success.
Who got into all those debt. I know him very well. He's me.
Wow, excellent story. So you have dealt with that monster.
I have.
Wow.
I have. And it has actually taught me some lessons that I really, up to now, still tell other people so that they get to learn from it. Now, one of the things also that I practiced early on was, you know, that monster, as I said, was inside you.
Yeah.
There was a time when home theaters were big.
Yes.
And everybody just had to
still
have
kind
them.
of is, depending where you go. Yeah, okay.
It was quite expensive
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I did at the time, which I think worked, and I didn't even know that it's going to be a principle that I will live by. But one of the things I did was, when I look at it, I would say, okay, I'm going to get that. But I'm not going to go into debt. I'm going to save up for it. So I'll save. I'll save. When I have the money and I can buy it already in cash, I realize that after a few months, the price of it gone down. But that's not the nice part. The nice part is somehow you feel like, I don't really have to do this now.
You don't really
you know
need
what
to
I mean?
buy it.
And,
Okay.
you know, I can actually maybe just invest the money and make more.
Right.
So what happened there is really being able to tame the monster is one part of it.
Yeah.
The second is I learned that you don't have to say no to yourself. You can actually fool yourself into believing that you're actually going to do it. But then later on, you actually don't.
Right.
You know? So what I share with people is this. Maybe you don't have to really always say no to yourself because that's tough. You just have to tell yourself, okay, we'll do this, but not now. And then later you'll realize, you know, you're over it.
Right.
You're over it.
I like how you're saying if you're able to tame the beast, it clears your mind.
It does, yeah.
Because of all that time saving and building up, you realize, wait a minute, maybe I don't really need this thing after all. So that's a
It's one
great,
way.
great
It's one
principle.
technique I use for myself and share
Okay.
with other people to tame that monster because
Right.
that monster wants you to do it now. But the key to being able to live below your means is to be able to defer those expenses that are especially those that are not necessary. Now, it's so difficult to tell a person, don't do it, because he really wants to.
Right.
At that point, he's really...
So what do you do? Yeah.
So what do you do? So the advice I give is, just say to yourself, okay, we're going to get there. We're just not going to do it
Right
in
now.
using my credit card, but instead I'm going to save up for it. And that's how I kind of delay the whole thing.
So delay and defer is a key to helping break that hold of the monster,
that's right.
if you will. Excellent. Living below your means. Coming up after the break, Rolly will answer your money questions. So keep it here. On the Money, we'll be right back.
Up until the year 2000, one of my friends and colleague refused to own a mobile phone. While everyone was raving about the latest gadget, she decided a landline was more than enough. It's liberating to move around without being traced, she said.
20 years ago, none of us had mobile phones. So, are mobile phones needs or wants? How about cable television, air conditioning, Wi-Fi, high-speed internet, tablets when you already have laptops?
Are you the kind of person who will spend 100 pesos to change your Facebook status or tweet while on the road?
This insane need to have the latest technology is an expense that is easily taken for granted. Consider Generation Y, or who we call the millennials. They seem to have been born with a keypad.
Cell phone, PSP.
iPad, cell phone, laptop.
PSP, laptop.
12,000 yung PSP ko. Way back 2 years ago. Yung cellphone ko, 5,000.
25K laptop, then 8K yung iPad.
9,000 sa PSP, tapos 11,000 sa laptop.
Depende kung maganda siya, bibili ako. Kasi maganda siya. Kasi siya yung in.
Yes. Oo, gusto ko ng cellphone, Android naman. Kasi in siya ngayon.
Oo naman.
Bakit?
Para makasabay sa sa uso ngayon. Siyempre, sa trabaho, kailangan ko rin sa trabaho yun eh.
If you're looking for ways to free up some cash, you may want to look at the high cost of modern living. To do that, consider adopting the balanced money formula. You spend 50% of your money on needs, 30% on wants, and you set aside 20% for savings. Needs should be items that you have to absolutely pay, like electricity, water, food, housing. Want should be everything else, like restaurant meals, concert tickets, and gadgets you buy just to stay ahead of the curve.
By using this model, you can easily see if the high cost of maintaining a modern lifestyle is already encroaching on your savings plan.
I did the math and realized that I am spending at least 5,000 pesos on mobile phone, internet, and other modern lifestyle costs. That's 60,000 per annum. I could grow that to almost 200,000 at 8% return in 15 years. I'm not about to live in the forest, but I think we can all tame the modern beast and save some money.
Let's now check with Melissa Hecolea for questions you might have sent on Facebook, Twitter, and email. And of course, still with us is registered financial planner Rolly Robles. Mel, hello.
Hi, Edric. Hi, Rolly.
Hi.
Okay, the first question comes from Andrea. She says, I almost always overspend when I'm stressed because I feel I need to pamper myself. I have included this in my budget already, but I still go over my allotted amount. What can she do?
All right. First, we need to understand that people who are in a stressful situation normally will not think straight. Yeah?
Right.
So,
right.
I think my suggestion to Andrea is this. When she's in that kind of a mode, she should have a friend with her. Ask that friend to watch out for her. When she starts to spend, that friend must be there to rein her in.
Okay.
What if she's in the mall?
You know,
and the
because if
friend
she's
is under-
alone,
yeah,
definitely,
yeah.
I don't think she can stop herself.
So it's
because
like-
that's just how it works. I
Right.
mean, if you're under stress, you're not
Don't
going to think
clearly.
straight. And if this is how she is able to relieve herself of the stress, she's going to spend. And then later on realizing, wow, I overspent.
Okay. It's
So-
like AA.
Yeah.
You
just
have a
to
buddy.
Somebody. You have to have somebody with you.
Hold you accountable, right?
Okay. Yeah, exactly. How did you manage to discipline yourself from overspending?
Well, by first understanding that I have goals that I want to satisfy, and my goals take precedence over those expenses, those unnecessary expenses that I would like to do today.
Right.
And I think for many of us, that would be the best way to approach this situation of not spending or living within your means.
Right.
Is by correlating everything you do with a higher purpose, with a higher goal. And that will be a way of subverting all of this.
Especially in those crunch time moments.
Exactly.
When they're stressed and they want to go through retail therapy.
Right. So maybe Andrea can
Right.
just look at the bigger picture
Yeah.
of what she really wants
Right.
out of life, and
Right.
then she can forego that stress spending.
That can help.
preventive, yeah.
That can help.
Yeah.
That's preventive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, the next question comes from Jenny. She says, I like buying jewelry and view it as an investment, aside from which it's something I get gratification from as I love beautiful things. Is this a good way to save while spending?
Well, I will assume that she's buying real jewelry.
Yes, let's assume that.
Let's assume that.
Fair assumption.
And let's assume further that because this is her passion, she knows a good one from a fake one. Okay, so that means she'll be really buying good stuff. Jewelries will always make for good investments. But of course, just like in any investment, you don't want to overdo it. You want to diversify. But for people like her, it is a good way, at least, to park some of her money, because jewelries would serve you good in the long term.
Here's a question. So let's say it is an emergency and you now need to get liquid and you have your jewelry. Would you be able to get the amount that you would have wanted for it?
I'm not saying you're going to get it all the time, but at least crunch time comes, you need cash, you can use it. I also know that in some of the dire situations that people have come across with, like places where there's war, for example, the boat people of Vietnam before, a lot of them were able to get into those boats and they pay their way through those jewelries that they had. And that's one way, because jewelry will always be some form of currency that you can use in times of emergency.
The next question comes from Kim, and she says, I have a 13-year-old son who I would like to send to a private school because I think it will offer better education and opportunities for him. Unfortunately, we can't really afford it and are planning on taking out a loan for this, despite our monthly expenses being stretched to the limit. How important is it for my son to go to an exclusive school, and is it important enough to go into debt for?
Interesting question, because there's so many facets to this. But let me start with a key point. Was it a she?
Yeah, it's a she.
Yeah, it's a she. Yeah. She said that she couldn't afford it. That's key.
Okay.
All right. I don't know if there's anything you want to get into that you really cannot afford, because by the fact that you cannot afford it, you're already saying that there's no money for it.
Right.
But then she's equating that with the education, the best education you could ever give a child.
Right.
That's something I will not go against. What would be debatable is it only an exclusive school that can provide the best education? Then that's something to think about.
Such as homeschooling, for example.
Oh yeah, which leads me to that point, to the next point, which is there are options, okay, and explore the options available to provide that best education that you think you'd like to give your kid.
Right.
Before you even consider going into debt, paying for something that you cannot afford.
Right.
Because by itself, the statement of going into debt to pay for something you cannot afford is actually a no-no.
Rolly, sorry, the idea of putting money into something you might not be able to afford right now, but let's say it has a long-term, it's part of your long-term goals. For example, houses.
Even that.
Even that. If you don't have the money.
Implications of what we're saying here is we're going to spend for something which we are not able to afford, meaning our income is not able to support it. That will snowball into debts that later on you cannot pay. That's exactly just pretty much the same thing as you telling me, oh, I love that car. I want to have that car. I'm going to borrow, even if I cannot afford that car right now, I'm going to borrow, and you know. And then the next thing is, oh, I love that plasma TV, or I love that LED flat screen, you know, and it snowballs. It's the same principle. Just because it's education doesn't really tell you that it's something you can go into debt for.
So
not even a house. The key word is I cannot afford it. So, and here's the thing. The thing you want to explore is this. There are options, and this is what I always share with people, and this is also how I got out of debt. We always have choices. It's not as if you don't. There are choices, there are options. You just need to explore. And you will be surprised and amazed to find out that there are options out there that will enable you to get what you want with just equally good results than if you were to do what you thought you would initially do, which is get into debt just because you wanted to do certain things.
Yeah. And what are
So-
your motivations for
Yeah.
sending your kid to that exclusive
Yeah.
school
So-
anyway?
So for that particular parent who is
Yeah.
asking, I think the advice is you're giving is if you can't afford it, then look for options.
Yeah, and there's this thing that Mel just pointed out a while ago, which is, what are your real motives? Check it. Is it really because you wanted to give the best education, or is it just about bragging rights, about telling
That's a good
other
point,
people
yeah.
that my kid is going to this school? Is it really that? Because if it is that, then all the worse, you know. You're not supposed to get into debt just because you wanted to say to people that I'm sending my kid to this and that school.
Sure.
Exactly. Okay, thank you so much, Rolly. People, viewers, send us your money questions via email or through Facebook and Twitter, and we'll try to answer them in our upcoming episodes or on Friday for our Q&A day. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Mel. Rolly, excellent discussions again. That's our show today. I'm Edric Mendoza. Join us again tomorrow for more talk and tips so you're always right on the money.